show my like a real project?
If you already worked and you want to show
Yeah.
that work experience in your resume, is that what you're saying?
No. I have the project I doing to in my college. So I have a like a
Oh yeah,
to,
yeah, of course. Those you can show. So if you did anything in college, you're gonna write down like related projects and related um subjects that you did in college. So if you did like any coding, classes or anything related to
so
coding.
the things is a all project one is not on the Java project. I have the PHP project, Kotlin project,
Mhm.
and C# project, but I don't have the Java project. So can I show that one?
Yes. So Java project, if it's not there, then you'll show it from here, right? So you're gonna say that you did Java class here, and then this is where you did the training and everything. We do have a role EIN number and everything. So we are a consulting company in a way, and we have 3 people on the payroll. So even if you show that you did the course here and got the, let's say, success completion, you can put the date and we will be able to verify if they call us.
So this the project I have to show the like a GitHub or the like portfolio. Portfolio.
So we will basically ask you to create all that, but again, like for automation, think about this way: if we create, all of us create GitHub portfolio, and we are starting to showcase the work, the expectation is really, really high after joining. So what we try to do, we try to go with a company who doesn't even care about seeing those portfolios. We try to go with a company that is easy enough for you, right? And the reason is that we want you to stay in that company for at least 6 months to a year before getting fired. If a company cares enough to take a coding challenge before joining, you can bet that that manager, whoever asks you to do the coding challenge, on your first week will ask you to start writing code, right? And some of you guys may not be comfortable. Imagine you just joined a company, you're setting up your computer, and then a week later they want you to start writing code, right? It is really, really tough. It'll be tough for me because I need to first understand the product and application. So Q is really, really different. What you're saying is, as a developer, if you do get hired, you need to have a portfolio, you need to have code, and on your 3rd day, you might be writing code, right? But as a QA, is different, right? We're gonna try to defer the automation part at least for 2 months. You need to understand the product. You need to understand the application. You can't just simply write automated tests. Yes, you're going to be running the automated tests. You're going to ask them questions. You're going to know how automated test works. And when they run it, you're going to help them on running it, but you're not going to write any test cases until a couple of months later.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So you have to know your place, because when you join a company and they're saying, okay, write some automated tests, and you just say, oh my God, I have to. No, you don't have to. It's not simply coming in and writing some code. Even if you manage to write some code after joining, you may end up writing bad code because you don't know the framework, and you don't also know the product, and therefore somebody has to redo your work. So you're basically doing the work for no reason, right? So in a company, if the company is decent enough, they let you go until like 6 months or so before you can even do anything. Like 6 months, you'd probably not do anything. So 1 second, and no, you'll do manual testing for the first 6 months. But we also try to look out for you, because yes, there are companies out there, they want you to write automated tests on your day 2 if they can, right? But do we want to get into that kind of company? Imagine you're getting 10 calls per day for 10 different positions. Does it make sense for us to pick something so difficult when we're getting so many hits per day, right? So that's something that you have to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to create a brand new project, and this is going to be a Maven project. And once we do that, okay, JDK can still open. Add JDK. I don't even have JDK in this machine. Okay, 1 second. Download JDK. Okay, that's fine. So I'm gonna do open JDK, and then I'm gonna say okay, BDD automation. All right, so somebody guide me through here because we did this a couple times already. So what is the next thing that I need to do, and why is there a POM file here? Guys, any idea?
Yes, we need to download the library.
Libraries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, JUnit and everything else.
Okay. Let me just go ahead and get to Maven repository, correct? This is a Maven project. Maven repo repository. Where does it go? Okay, there we go. So the first thing first, we're gonna get Selenium just to make sure that we have it. I want to make sure that I get specific. Today, I'll probably do another high one because this is, I believe the last issue was related to my computer. It didn't have enough space. Okay, so let's see if we can get the latest version, or at least the stable version. I'll probably do stable, guys. Don't want to play around with this too much. Okay, it's already copied. Okay, you guys tell me what I did wrong here. Okay, it's red.
We have to add dependencies, and inside the
Okay.
dependencies, we have to add the dependency.
Got it. Okay, dependencies, and then we need to close it. And then. Okay, so this is how XML works, right? And HTML works very similar way. You have the tag names. You see that these are the tag. And anytime you have a tag, for example, this project tag, and then you have right here again project, what does it mean? This is the opening. This is where the begins, and this is where the end. And always starts with a slash, right? So anytime you want to put some information into an XML file, you have to make sure that you have these tags properly done. It has to be closed. Okay, and then always download. Let's see.
I have a little question. Why we don't need Jerkin here?
Gherkin, you mean?
Yes, Gherkin, sorry.
Yeah. So Gherkin, we are just getting to that, right? We just got the Selenium. Why do we need Selenium? That should be a proper question, because Selenium is to control the browser, and then Gherkin is to write our tests in BDD manner, like in a human manner. So we're writing our tests in plain English, so that way it looks good, it is readable, and it can be also a document, living document. That means anybody can read and cross-check and see if that actually makes sense. Here something is red, right? And I'm not gonna ask you guys, but 23 right here, line number 23. This is where we had an issue. Okay, so Selenium. So the first thing first, okay, so we got the Selenium. The next one, I believe we gotta get Cucumber. So Cucumber has 3 Cucumber. So Cucumber Java, Cucumber JUnit, and then we need also core, Cucumber core, JVM core. And there's 2. It's really hard to, it's probably confusing. But let's see which one we need actually. So we need Cucumber Java 100%, right? So let me just get that first.
And also Pico container.
Yeah, that's something that we will need also. And okay, so let's see which version of Cucumber that we want to get in terms of these numbers. The usage usually gives you a good idea in terms of if it's a stable version or if this version just came out and people are still testing, right? So let's see, this is an RC1. 6.9.
691 maybe.
Yeah, but there's still RC in between. Let's see. Okay, so I think we should be fine with the latest even, because Cucumber shouldn't have a lot of problems, but just to be safe, this is 30, 24, 37. I'll take this one. Unless, let's see, what are 56?
691, 56.
Yeah, 56 is the highest number. So we're just making a judgment here to make sure we don't put our project into a bad situation. So if something with Cucumber doesn't work, you might be spending a lot of time. So that's why we have to make sure we get the right version. Okay, so then we got the Cucumber. The next thing is, okay, Pico container is the next one. And then Cucumber JUnit will be after that. Okay. So JVM, Cucumber, JUnit right there. And then it was, okay, 166. I'll just take this. Cucumber JUnit, okay, that's good. And then Pico container is next. Pico container is right there. And then we'll match the version with the Cucumber. So 691 was the version. That's it. Okay. So just pay attention, because this is the dependencies we got. And after that, let's see what problems that we face. Now, the question here is that, okay, do everybody face these kind of problems? Not everybody, only the people who builds the framework. So in this case, I am building a framework that makes me who? Anybody want to try my title? Anyone want to guess what could be my title if I was building the framework?
Developer?
Developer.
Yeah.
No, so I'm going to be a test architect, right? So that means when I build this framework, I have a way to build it, meaning I have my own taste and idea, right? And I'm going to apply here. And then if you come and join my company, I already have a guide for you to follow. So for example, how to install this, how to start writing test, everything that I will have to write. I'll have to write the document and say, okay, this is how I want you to write your code when you write the automated test. And this is what I want you to follow when you want to run the test. And this is how I want you to name the method, or this is how I want you to follow, like maybe like the page object pattern or whatever it is, right? But most importantly, as a QA architect, I'll be doing a lot of setting work, right? And this framework, those setting you have no knowledge of. So if you join a company and you cannot even run the test, don't panic, because it's normal to be able to feel like, oh, wow, I don't even know anything. Is because you're not the person who built it. The person who built it, he did exactly what he thought was right. Okay, so it might not even look like this. It might not even look like this structure. It's based on his idea and what he thought was right at the moment. And you have to learn his code base. So you have to go through each and every single file system and folder and learn what he did. You have to follow his code and basically understand why he implemented and how he implemented, and then start writing tests. So even if you were asked to write your test on the second day, you can't, because you have limitation on understanding the framework itself. Forget about the application. So again, like this is the type of conversation you might have in the very beginning in your team. Your manager may say, okay, why aren't you writing automation? And it's okay, well, I have to understand the framework. And so I'm going to basically spend the time on that. I'm going to spend 4 hours on that, just going over, writing some sample test. Once I feel comfortable, I will be able to write some tests. Now, you may have 6 years of experience and you can say the same thing. So just know that 6 years or 7 years of experience doesn't give you like a magic power to just join a company and start writing automated tests the very next day. And even if you do, it might not be very good ones. All right, so the next thing that we need to do, we need to basically on the test, I'm going to create a file, and this is where we're going to start writing our Selenium Java. Okay, let's see. It doesn't have the cucumber because I'll tell you why, but okay, we'll write a folder. And so RESO resources, this is where we want to keep our tests, right? So RESO RCS resources. It doesn't even recognize it, but it's okay. But it's a new file. So we need a folder for this. I will say directory, I believe. Okay, there we go. It recognized. That's great. We got that. The next one is that we need to create a package inside of this. So we'll do that later, but first we can just go ahead and create our cucumber test here. Again, we don't have any recommendation from the IDE because it doesn't have the plugins. So we'll get the plugins in a bit. So I'm going to say first BDD test, for example, dot feature. Okay, so then we have this. We're going to write feature. So remember, any feature file will start with feature keyword. In the feature keyword, what do we write? I'm going to ask one of you guys a question. Okay, so Rakib, can you answer this question? When we have this structure of BDD on the feature, what do we write right here? Do we write code? Do we write anything?
I'm sorry, I'm going to skip that.
All right, who wants to answer this?
We write scenarios.
So scenario goes inside of feature, but then here we can write some description. This is where you can write the introduction,
Given.
like not given, because this is where you can write a free form text. It is not part of the code. So you can say, as a user, I would like to test the login feature in order to be able to do all my workflows, right? For example, right? Whoever's the user is, right? So this is just basically me writing a small description of an idea what the test is going to look like. So since you mentioned login feature, so you will, in this feature, you're going to only test login, right? You're going to only create scenarios for login. So the first scenario I have, and we have the second scenario. So I can have more than one scenario inside of a feature. Okay, so this is second and this is third. So I have three scenarios, for example, login. So let's write some scenario. So verify user, for example, user can log in using valid credentials, right? And then you have recommendation, okay, refactor, okay, never mind. CREDIENT. Okay, I thought I got it right.
EIN.
CRE. Oh, what is it? CREDIEN.
E, I think credentials. EIN.
CREDIEIN. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just write this again.
Yeah,
Sometime.
yeah.
I don't understand.
Should be DEN, not DI.
Oh.
No, yeah. EN. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Credentials. Okay, there you go. All right, cool. So now we have this one scenario, right, where you're saying that you want to do only valid. So username is valid and the password is valid. So what do you do, right? You are then have to say given. Given is a keyword, when is a keyword, and then is another keyword. And this is the syntax of Gherkin that we're following in order to write our test. Whenever you write your test, I don't know why when it's not highlighted. Okay, there we go. So now with this keyword, you actually have to logically match the keyword, but it doesn't have any meaning in terms of code. So whatever code you write, it doesn't really changes the outcome. It does exactly, the code does exactly what it should do, regardless of what kind of keyword. This keyword is only for logical reason. So the first line, if you say, let's say I am on on the login page. So that's your given, right? So given should be appropriately used for the page, exactly where you are at the moment. So given I'm on the login page. When is used for action. So action meaning as a user, what do? I am given when I enter user name, and it could be anything, and password something else, right? Then what happens? Then I should be logged in, right? So that's your one scenario, right? And you can think of how many scenario of a login, right? What other scenarios can you think of? Let's say, let's ask Ruma. What other scenarios can you think of?
Sorry. What are the scenarios like password, login, username? Sorry if I missed.
Okay, so look at the scenario one, which is
Could be
you logging
invalid
in.
credentials. The second scenario.
Second scenario is what? Say it again, sorry.
Oh, I said it could be a verified username can log in using invalid credentials, maybe using like a different combination of password, like a words, alphabets. Sorry, I guess I'm not making any sense.
Yeah. All right, so let me give you
Can
guys an
we add
idea.
positive and negative scenarios?
Of course you can, but then the question is that if you have the opportunity to automate positive and negative, is it efficient to do that, right? So when you say negative, you may end up having a lot more scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Is it like, is it gonna make us more efficient using like negative? What is the use of kind of automating everything, absolutely everything, right? So let's talk about that. First of all, let's talk about the scenarios. Like how many scenarios can you come up with? Login, right? I just want to give you guys an idea, right? So login test cases, for example, right? And this is a question.
You can verify the password as well, that the password is blocked. So it's so other people can't read it off your screen. So it's once you type it in, it goes blank or it turns into a circle.
So if you're in an interview, right, and they said, okay, just tell me how many scenarios can you come up with in the test case, like for login, right? And you cannot simply just say, okay, I'll try this. You know, it doesn't sound very much somebody who actually worked and came up with a scenario. So you want to say, okay, I'll verify this and I'll verify that. First I'll verify username and password, which will be valid, and try to see if I can log in. And after that, I will try invalid username and valid password. And then from there on, these are functional test cases. So for example, anytime you use negative data, for example, valid username, but invalid password, that is a negative scenario, right? So what is negative test case? Basically, whenever you use invalid credentials or invalid data, it doesn't have to be credentials. Then you want to verify that when the field is blank and submit, that means username, password, both blank, and you click on submit, what happens, right? That's also a negative because you haven't even entered any data, right? Then you want to check the forget password functionality. Now your interviewer didn't even ask you forget password. They just say login username and password. Then you can say, well, if there is a forget password link, I want to check that to make sure the whole functionality is working. That means updating my password and then try to log in again to see if that is working properly. Okay. Then you want to go into verify message for invalid login. So what are the messages? So you try wrong username. What is the message is given to you from the application? Application is saying, hey, your username is invalid. You're trying wrong password. Your application is saying you entering wrong password. You're entering illegal character. It could be something that is not allowed, and it says a username cannot contain this, so check your username. Whatever it is the validation message. So these are the messages that you will have to verify, which is a positive, right? Positive test case. Then you want to do remember me functionality. That is something the interviewer hasn't even mentioned, but if you say I will check for remember me functionality, does it hurt? No, it doesn't, because you understand how a login feature works. You have done, right, for many companies. So then you can say, assuming there is a login, remember me functionality, I will check that as well, right? So you can, just to be safe, you can say, assuming this is a requirement, I will test this. But you have to say, I will verify this, I will verify that, I will try this, and I'll try that. You cannot just say, okay, first I'll try this and one thing. Here, how many test cases can you guys see? Right here, we can actually see, I would say close to like, okay, this is, all right, let's see. This is for sign up. And this is so non-functional security test cases. So if you, even if you include this, guys, we're still talking about like 40 to 50 test cases. So 40 to 50 test cases you can come up with just from a login feature. How can you do that? How can you come up with all of these, right? You have to think like a user, right? You have to think what a user can do at the moment using that feature or functionality. So let's go and try to kind of make sense out of this, right? So try to log in, right, somewhere, right? Where do we log in? Let's say I'm going to open up something, Citibank or something like that. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So let's say you're writing a test case for this, right? You come in here, username, and you enter your password. You got to remember me. You got the register, activate, forget, and password, right? All of these links. You enter your valid username and valid password, you sign in and you logged in. And you're going and say, oh, I'm done. I tested the login features working. Was it good?
No.
Okay, what else do we have to check, right? Now, let's say you did that. Now, one of your user, now this is public, for example. Now I'm a user and I'm here and I'm saying, okay, I'm gonna now enter my user ID and I'm gonna enter my password. But all of a sudden, like, let's say something happened on my keyboard, right? And I have this blank for some reason because I didn't realize, okay? I was looking the other way and I click on login. I was clicking on sign in, and what happened is that it let me sign in, and you haven't tested that feature. That is specific scenario you didn't test it. The username, you couldn't even believe that user will be dumb enough to enter user ID, not user ID, and then just enter the password. He said, oh, no, none of the user is going to do that. My users are fine, right? So now let's say I'm an old person. I don't understand how application works. I go ahead and enter a password and sign in, and I'm logged into somebody else's account because the username just somehow, whatever magic happened in the backend, it put me into somebody else's account. Okay, so that puts the company's reputation on the line. At that point, you know how many news channel is going to show this issue because you're dealing with money. It's very, very sensitive. Right away, this will become a news. And just because you didn't test it, this specific scenario, you know, like the very next day, I think within the first hour, your boss is going to come running to you. Oh, something terrible happened in production. Roll it back. Roll it back. That means they're going to shut everything down. They're going to revert the code, and you're going to just sit in your chair and you're like, oh, what happened? And they're going to say, well, if you don't enter username, it logs you into somebody else's account. And now your manager is going to say, okay, let's have a postmortem. Usually they call it postmortem when things like that happens, and they want to find out what happened. Then they will not blame you immediately. They will say, okay, you tested in QA and it worked, but then in production it didn't work. Is that the case? And you're going to say, well, let me check. And you say, oh, wow, it's also not working in QA environment, right? And you tested in QA environment. And now you have to kind of justify saying like, how can you miss an obvious scenario, right? And now that'll probably not happen, right? Because even like, you're not the only one who's testing. A lot of people are testing, so I'm sure somebody will catch this issue. But what if there are other scenarios that nobody tested it because everybody depending on you? You're the one who's testing the feature in depth. That means you're supposed to analyze and come up with every possible combination that a user will try, right? And then test it to make sure it doesn't do anything weird. So let's come up with some combination that may be very, very hard to think about. So you got the username, right? You got the username and you got your password, and then you got remember me ID. And let's say you want to click on sign in, but then somehow you click into the sign in like triple times and the whole application breaks, right? That could be another one, right? Somehow you enter the password, for example, and now the password is revealing your password, right? It's not ... anymore, right? You want to check that. What if you click on remember me and then go ahead and sign in, but then when you come back, it remembers somebody else, like another person who belongs to the same bank, but it's somebody that never even used this computer, right? That is also something that you want to check, and your boss is not going to check that. Nobody else in your team is going to check that because you are the one who's doing in-depth feature testing. If you do miss this kind of scenario, like for example, another one, you registered, you went through the whole registration process, and now you want to log in using the username and password, and you logged in and it logged you in, but it is somebody else's account, right? So a lot of the things that you have to do, forget user ID reveals the password somehow, right? Forget user ID also reveals customer sensitive data that it's not supposed to. Sign in with QR code was compromised, for example. Somehow any QR code works, okay? So there is a endless list of test cases that you can actually test, but you want to do just enough. You want to make sure that you are testing test cases or test scenarios that are the higher priority, okay? There might be, let's say, edge cases as well here, right? Edge cases could be like somebody log in and then like they enter all this information, sign in. That's the logical thing to do, right? Like I enter the information, I want to click on sign in, but no, I clicked on sign on with QR code. Now what's going to happen? It's not like developer didn't think about it, right? Because like what happens if they think that somebody entering username and password, they will only click on sign in because they have it. They never thought that somebody was going to go ahead and click here on the sign in with QR code, and this application broke because it has no idea what to do next because the developer didn't provide the instruction and you didn't test this, right? And now we have a problem, right? So you see, like it opened up this specific, let's say, window for customers to scan this and log in, but when they enter username and password, it doesn't. For example, it doesn't open anything up, it just breaks. So think about the scenarios that you can come up with when you do login testing. And login testing is just an example to give you an example that how you can apply your critical thinking to come up with every possible combination of the use cases or test scenarios or test cases, right? And then list them down, and then you write the test cases. So with that said, what is a use case? What is a test case? And what is a test scenario? Who wants to answer this? Can you guys hear me? All right, let's start with the easy one. What is a test case? What is the difference between test case and test scenario? Guys, remember, you guys have to be very, very, very good with this documentation because no matter you do automation or manual, this is like your everyday work. So imagine I work in, let's say, McDonald's, and I don't know how to put a burger together, right? I don't know why, let's say how to make the fries ready or how to put the fries together, right? That would be very much telling in an interview that you probably don't, have the background as a QA. So test cases, test scenarios, and use cases have something in common, but I wanted to see if you guys know what these are, right? Anybody want to try before I?
Well, test case is when you set when you create actions to make sure that the application is running by the requirements needed. Test scenarios, I believe, is when you I think it's in the words itself, when you create scenarios to see if the test cases result in a positive or a negative construct. And then what was the last one?
You have test case scenario, test cases, and use case.
Use cases. I guess use cases is previous data that you've had from the prior building of the application, if I'm not mistaken.
You said it, you guessed. So all right, let me give you guys some, like,
how close was
sometime
that?
you did get closer. The last one you didn't get close at all, but
Thanks.
but let me give you guys a simpler way, because sometimes you can read these on Google and it may not make sense. So you have use case is basically requirement. Okay, so it's basically just telling you what the user can do and what is the response to that kind of user action. So what is the action that user is going to be able to do? Okay, and then it's two portions. Like, think about a table with the left and right column. On the left side, you have user action. On the right side, what is the system response? What is the system actually responding to that specific action? Now, can you use this to create your test scenario? Yes, you can, because you already know what the user should do and how does the application reacts to that kind of action. Now that you have use cases, you can create test scenario. Test scenario is basically in a single line, just like this. Okay, in a single line, you write down what your intention is, what you're validating. So you want to say verify if the user can log in using username and password, which is valid. That is a test scenario. Now, what is the difference between test case? Test case is basically you take the same scenario, you take the same thing, and you put enough details where it no longer needs any other background information. So something like this. A test case usually contains all the necessary information in order to perform, right? So test case. So I'm gonna just create you a test case right here. Okay. And then it has the step. Okay, I'm sure you guys did this. It has the description for each of the step. Okay, so think like I'm creating a table, because this is like not just a notepad. So so you got the description, then you have the expected result. Actual result, passed / failed, whatever happened here. Then you can say screenshot maybe, and then comment, right? So this is how a test case looks like. So think like this is a table. In that table, you have step number 1. Go to, for example, go to city.com, right? Citycard.com, which is card, I believe, right? Citibank or card. For example, that's what you're testing. That's the one step, right? So now you're gonna say city home page should display. So that's your expected result. And the actual result, you write it at the time of execution. So right now I'm writing the test case and I'm not executing. So this can stay blank, the actual result, because I haven't tested. Pass fail will stay blank because I haven't tested. And then so is the screenshot, okay? The next one is the next step, okay? Click on login. Right, so you clicked on the login link, then you're gonna say that the login page should display, for example. And they can put more details to it, not just login page. Should display, they can say it should have this, it should have this color, or it should have pre-filled username and password and things like that. Then you go into the next one. Enter username, and then you provide actual username, right? For example, in this case, like user1. Enter password. So for example, password is equal to password. And then what does the system do? It should take both of them, right? So it should take both data in both fields. For example, I'm just summarizing, otherwise it could be more descriptive. Username field should take username that I'm providing, valid username, and then password should be the same thing. You should encrypt the password so people cannot see, something like that. Then your fourth, you want to click on login. Right? And then user should be able to log in, should be able to see home screen, right? Or account screen, whatever it is. And that is your test case. That means you write enough information here so that way an outsider can come in and be able to follow this step through in order to execute the test cases. A good example of a test cases is this. It should contain step, description, expected result, actual result, pass or fail. Now, this is the same test case we described in a single line that is called test scenario. It doesn't have enough details, but it does say a story like, okay, we're about to do this. But then you take the same scenario, same exact scenario, you write all the steps necessary to be able to make it executable, meaning somebody can just come in and follow blindly, just read. A blind person should be able to read and be able to execute this test. And that's when you call it a good test case. Now, many companies I've seen that they write a test case, they don't even provide all this information. They just write actual result, what the expected result and actual result, and pass and fail, this three. Is it good? Yeah, sure, that's fine, as long as you understand the application. But the best practices is that you provide as much as information as possible. You want to write it in a way that anybody can execute your test cases, because you are not the person who is going to execute this test case. It might be somebody else, right? So that's test case, okay? And that is test scenario, list of test scenarios here. And then use case is basically a requirement document, right? Use case. So you list down just like this. You have a table and you list down, let's say, user action. And then on the right side, you write response to that action, right? Right, so you just write, okay, user clicks on, let's say, clicks on login, and depending on after what action you click on login, then system should allow. So for example, just imagine I wrote all of these, like the internal information, system should allow user to log into the system. And that is the assumption that he already has the steps to enter username and password. So use cases are something like this, which if they provide use case, they no longer do that, right? They actually write in this format, the requirement, and you'd be able to take this format and convert that into an automation. But this is how they used to do it before, use cases, where you would pretty much know what are the action associated with the system's response. So now you know use case, test case, and test scenario. All right, let's move on, guys, because sometime when I'm talking about things and you guys don't know, I will spend extra times there. All right, so now that we created this, okay, now that we created this test case, we can create more test cases. How many test cases can we create here? Even if we just do functional tests, we are talking about 14 test cases. Non-functional includes checking for characters, length, and all of that, right? So now we have another 8 for non-functional, okay? So it's a lot of test cases that we can create, but again, we created one. The first thing that I will do is that I can probably like do a dry run first to make sure that my framework is all healthy and happy. And then we go from there. All right, that's good. So notice like it did the similar reaction, right? Which is like, hey, your step is not defined. I can actually copy this and put it into a location. So now I'm going to create a step definition. This is my step def. It's putting under Java. That's fine. And we are good to go. Okay, so if I go back in here and this is no longer highlighted, that means this steps is defined and it says one usage. So IntelliJ is nice enough to tell you when your step is already being used. Okay, then I will probably create the WebDriver outside, and we will probably put the WebDriver somewhere later. But the fact that I can write WebDriver and it shows me in the list, that means my Selenium is already working and it's working fine. So I'm going to say driver, and that's it. Okay, so WebDriver driver, this is called instance variable. That means I already defined the variable type, the variable data type outside, and I can still put the value from wherever I want within this class. So now I'm going to provide the value, which is driver is equal to something. I'm going to provide the value is new. I can say WebDriver, I can say Chrome driver. So because we want to use Chrome, we can say Chrome driver. And now at this point, it should actually go ahead and attempt to open the Chrome, and we'll just go ahead and see what's the deal. Okay, we're getting the same. Okay, 1 second. I'm beginning to think that this should be inside of the class. Okay, let's see, inside of a. Yeah, this should be inside of a package, actually. So I put it right outside. Okay, so I'm going to create a new package, guys. And I'm going to say my package maybe, and then just because then we know if this is a package or not, and then put it in there. We got the refactoring and still working fine. And then we'll just put this away. And then the next thing we have to do is I think a resource should be a package too. So I'm going to create another one, and it should be under test.
Just wondering, do you need a
Yeah.
test runner file or test runner class?
Yeah, but right now we don't need it, right? So
Oh,
at
yeah,
this moment, yeah, it's we're using the IDE, but test runner is the last thing. Like we want to. The reason why we need test runner, because we may want to run our tests in a certain way.
Yes.
And that's when we will use that.
Okay.
But it should be able to run it without the test runner. Let's see. I'm just wondering the versions and everything. Okay, so glue, I gotta put my package. Maybe this is where our stuff are. And then code coverage, we don't need this. I know this is related to glue, right? Because the glue is the next, how does the framework knows that you wrote code, right? So that's when you have to use glue to provide that. 1 second. I don't understand, even with this computer, it's the same issue. But I have the exact same framework, so that's kind of strange.
I'm sorry. Also, this feature.feature files, is it under Java? Right now, maybe it is under test, but not under Java.
Yeah, it shouldn't be under Java. Because
Okay.
so we see like under the test. Okay, so under test we have the resource file. This is where it should be. We can try putting it in the same class.
Yes.
It shouldn't be matter actually, but let's see. Yes, so it doesn't matter.
Same thing.
I'll put it back, yeah. Okay, that's good. Just want to see, because you guys will have the same issue, and I want to make sure that this is something that we actually identify in terms of what is the issue. And this again could be.
Sorry to bother. Can you just install? Can you just get the Jerkin Jerkin, what do you call this thing? Maybe
Jerkin what?
Jerkin. Can you install the Jerkin maybe in the repository?
Gherkin. Okay, let's see. Gherkin should be there now. I mean, let's see. 1 second. We got the Pico container, we got the JUnit, we got the Cucumber Java. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take some dependency from my other project and paste it here, just to see if I didn't make a mistake with dependencies. So I'm gonna replace the entire dependencies with my previous project dependency just to see. Okay. XML has syntax error. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, there's 2 dependency. Okay. So this is what I just did, is just got the very older version of different things that I used at the time. And I can share that with you guys. If this works, then we'll just go with this. All right, so now if I do this, okay, so notice how immediately, and this is what it tells me the symptoms, right? Because immediately I can notice that even though I have my step definition, it doesn't recognize. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this actually, and I see like everything changed now somehow, right? So I'm just gonna copy these steps so that I don't have to rewrite. But otherwise, what I have to do, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this real quick and then create a new one. So this was the issue, guys. Okay. So now I'm gonna create right from here, create a step definition, my step, and it's putting it under Java. And then, and that's it. Okay, let's see. All right, so notice it's, okay, let's see, it says couldn't find load or main IO core. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it one more time. This is, so this tells me that the version that I was using, that I get at least the combination of the version that I was using is not correct, because we took some version that may be higher version and some may be the lower versions of different libraries. So Cucumber, Pico container, and all of that. So let me see 1 second, guys. And now I'm getting, it says that could not find or load main IO Cucumber class. Okay, so whenever you see something like this, it's always a good practice to paste it on Google and kind of see what it is that causing the issue. So it says, the way that I fixed it was delete all my configuration. Okay, so you go into the configuration and you delete it. Okay, that's fine. That is a doable. So edit configuration, and this person says that we have to delete this. Okay, apply. Okay, now I can go in here and run it. All right, but then we got the same exact issue. I'm on the login page. What if I take that and put it into Java directly? Oh, it's not even inside the class. Okay. Refactor. For some reason. Okay, so let's see. Edit configuration. Remove. All right. Now something is different. Let's see. Unable to make a private final module, does not have open Java. Holy crazy. Okay, so it's setup converter. Okay, so let me just see what just happened here. So whenever you see something like this, you have to read it through and then find the answer. So now I'm seeing a new error message, right? So what I can do, I can probably paste it in Google and see if there is any solution for this. So let's see. I'm gonna delete this real quick. Edit configuration. That is pretty strange because so we got the source test. Okay, so under the source we have test. I just want to see my structure is correct. And just remember, structure also have to be correct. I don't even know if I added the target actually. So we got the source test. Under the test, we have the resources. And then the resources contains the files. That's fine. Let's see. 1 second, guys. Selenium. Okay, so just trying to look up the issue. Why am I facing this issue? So I did new, and then I have to select a JDK. That's fine.
Sorry, how about we delete the resource and make a package here and put the features files on the package?
It doesn't have to be a package. Actually, the Cucumber file has to be in a folder because it's not even, the Cucumber portion is not even part of Java, right? So let me see what you're saying. I'll just do a sample test. If this works, then this might be something new. Let's see. Nah, it doesn't. You see?
Okay.
I put it in a folder. I can even like take it out, put it into the same as wherever the other class is, and I can run it, and I will probably say face the same issue. Yeah, I see right here. So I just don't understand why is it not working for me. There's a main resources. Okay. I'm just gonna try to create a new project because I may chose something that may be one of the. So we got the Maven. And this is OpenJDK. I hope that is the one that I want to use. I don't have like the JDK installed in my machine. That is another problem, which I should have done it. Okay, so
For the new project, can you use these dependencies, my dependencies?
Hmm?
The project you're creating a new project, right?
Yeah.
So I was telling you, can you use my dependencies, whatever I have in my project?
Yeah, for you, like when you created the dependencies, did you use the latest or did you do the older ones?
Latest. No,
Late.
actually, latest means whichever is the most uses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tried with 2 sets of
Yeah, I
dependencies and I
think
got
so.
the
You already
same.
got everything, but same thing.
Yeah. Let's
That's the
see.
thing.
And then somehow I'm getting the same exact issue. And you had the same format, right? You follow the same exact
Yeah,
file hierarchy.
Yeah, I have everything inside Java, but under
Mhm.
Java, and in Java file I have created packages, all packages, and
Mhm.
inside package I put the thing like test. But I think I have one thing that you don't use yet, that is test runner.
I see, I see. But test runner, like this is something that we have to first enable the
Mhm.
the IDE, so that way we go from here, right? We need to make
Mhm.
sure the IDE works first. Otherwise, it becomes really hard to
I was having
debug.
the same issues. I've been deleting and creating, deleting, and I have same issues. I could not do it.
Yeah.
Is it because of the Java thing? Like it's 18. I don't know. I can do
Yeah,
it.
can we just use package like step by step?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, okay, this might be okay. Okay. This might be a new thing, but let's see what happens. Okay. Now we have another issue. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my previous versions because those were working fine. Okay, and then this is that. Oh, I'm gonna click on this Maven thing and it should install all of it. So I put it under a package, all of it. So let's see, but that's not the way that we used to do. So let's see if that works. All right, and then you can see that right here is the issue. XML. Oh, okay. Somehow I'm missing everything. Okay, 1 second. Oh, this is only that. Okay, so let me just get the dependencies. I'm gonna probably make a repository. Cucumber, the first one, I'll get the 166, which is fine.
I have one more question for this
Mhm.
Cucumber Java. Your version is
Mhm.
1.25, but my version is 6.11. How come it's so different?
There
Oh
is
no,
like
yeah, no,
three different,
yes, 6.9,
yeah, there's
6.9.
three different Cucumber, right? So
Cucumber
one
Java,
second.
yes.
So Cucumber Java is 7 point, yeah, that's what I have. Which one did you get?
Cucumber Java 6.9. I think, yeah, this one is good, but I was talking about this thing. Cucumber, let me show 1.25. You got one of them is 1.25, but mine is like 6.11. It's Cucumber
Oh,
Giant,
we
I
know
guess.
we didn't even install Cucumber Core. You
No,
know,
not
Cucumber
core.
Core. Did you do Core? We need the
No,
Core.
no, I don't have core.
No, Cucumber Core is needed
I
for
got
sure.
SRJ core, but not the Cucumber core.
Let's see.
Yeah, this one, Cucumber, no, can you, yeah, this one, Cucumber Giant. And also the group ID is different. This is not io.cucumber.
Let's see.
Your Giant group ID is different.
Hold on. I just want to see if this becomes like, there you go. Okay, now it's happy and healthy. Okay. I don't understand why this is happening. Using snippet below. Okay, I got the snippet for sure, but Pico container. Okay, let's see. Maybe I gotta remove this. Apply this. Okay, and then okay, so definition not found. I just want to see what are the, turns out I had Gherkin plugin, but not the Cucumber for Java plugin. Okay, so we need to install some plugin here, guys. Maybe that's what I'm missing. And this is like, that's why like when you have a test runner, it runs fine because everything else is there. But then the way that I'm running, it is running from the IDE itself. Okay, so we got to go to the plugin. And now we got to see what we're missing. So GH, Gherkin is good. Cucumber. So Cucumber for Java, we need that. So Cucumber for Java, I believe this is the one third-party plugin. No, not this one. I found. Okay, this is the one, Cucumber for Java. So accept and install. Restore the IDE. I didn't know it needed this, but okay. Okay, so let's wait until then. Until then, we can read this. Okay, so this guy come up with a solution. Solution configure, provide the glue Cucumber, which should absolute path. Okay, so the other solution is the absolute path. So all this time we were trying a related path for the step definition. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this real quick. Run it. If it works. Undefined, which is fine. So now I go into the run configuration. And this is where I have to put the absolute path, right? So let me go get the absolute path. Copy absolute path. Invalid. Okay.
Also for the features, we don't have to put the features path.
No, it should automatically pick it up. Because if the feature path was not found, it wouldn't even get to the point where it says I can't find your step definition. Holy moly. Okay, this is giving me headaches. Wow. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring up my other framework and I'll show you guys. It's identical, right? And this, I don't know for what reasons, but this one works, right? So it has to be something that I'm missing myself. Okay, so then it could be like the idea file that has all the setting for this specific tool. But as you can see, I have my driver and I have my test in the resource file and it's still fine. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do this again. Code, copy this real quick. Just gotta test it with a good repository. All right, let's see. Okay, it's installing everything. Yeah, Cucumber has been pretty pain in the neck, but it will get better once I figure out why this is happening for me. And some of you guys had the same issue, right? Who else had the same issue?
I did, Ruma.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
before I did the same formula, it's working. I
Yeah.
have the file. Yeah. But yesterday I tried to do new URL. I don't know. I didn't do it, but before I do several times working, and I have the file.
Yeah.
Really good report. So
Right. The thing is, sometimes it changes. They do change the.
Is it just IntelliJ? Because I didn't try. I wanted to try Eclipse.
It could be, yeah, it could be because and also this is my new computer, so I wouldn't be able to tell you for sure if it's IntelliJ or.
So can I try the homework and Eclipse then?
You can, yeah, you can. Eclipse, it should probably work. Eclipse, it probably will work, but then you need the runner file. It will not. The reason why we're struggling so much because if I wanted to just run it, I could have just created a runner file here, and then be able to run my test without having to deal with the IntelliJ. But the reason why we need IntelliJ to run it and have the run configuration, because that makes your life easier and debugging makes it easier. So now we can actually debug and stop a test and see why things works and why things doesn't work. So it gives you the faster way to create your test. So that's why we have to be very native to the IDE. We have to configure everything on the IDE, so it makes our life much easier instead of just writing a script. Second. JDK is not specified for this module. Okay, so now when you see something like this, you have to go to preference, I believe. And then you have to look for SDK or something like that. Let's see. And then confirm IDE. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so a lot of the things that I have to do, missing JDK 11. So I have to download JDK also, okay? Download JDK 11. Where can I get this? Java C 11. Okay, that's good. JDK, and then I gotta look for the DMG file. Holy crap! They want me to log in. Okay, 1 second, guys. I don't remember the password. Okay, so all right, so let's just review the feature file today. I need to at least give you guys an explanation why this is happening, because otherwise you are not going to be able to create this framework, and then sooner or later this question is going to come, or this thing is going to come, and we need to make sure that we get to bottom of this. So anyway, so I'll get that on my time, but for now, let's talk about the feature file and how we create tests. So typically in your resource file, when you have a Cucumber BDD framework, this resource file will be either resource or it can be named anything else, right? And here you're going to have your Cucumber files, and there is 2 different scenarios you can see right here. And there is also feature. So a feature can create, basically a feature can have scenario, which makes sense because feature means a story, and a story can have small tasks. So in this case, a feature has a smaller scenarios to validate, right? So once you have, let's say, a one scenario where you may end up doing multiple things, for example, username and password. The first time you try, you use with valid username, valid password. The second time, try with valid username, but invalid password. In that case, you're running the same test over and over again, but you're using different data set, right? So then we're going to use something called parameterization. So in Cucumber, the way that we parameterize, we're using scenario outline. So as soon as you say scenario outline, I'm going to write it right here, another scenario outline. Scenario, so you can see you got 3: scenario template, scenario outline, and scenario, right? So as soon as you say scenario outline, it will immediately become red. And now no matter what you do, it is not going to be green until you fulfill its requirement, right? So given when and then, right? So now it's not green for some reason. So verify whatever. And then I'm on page, for example, I click on enter. I should see login, whatever, login page. So now why is it red is because if you hover over it, it says create an example section. So I'm going to click on that, but you can create the example section yourself without having to click on this link, but I'll create it by clicking on it. Notice is automatically created the example section, and it will remove the red. It's because what it does is that whenever you want to run, for example, let's say login username, and then password could be, right? Whenever you want to go ahead and parameterize, the example table has to be there right under the scenario outline. Okay, so this example table has to be spelled exactly how it is now with E capital, and underneath you separate each and every single column using the pipe. This is called pipe. Anybody know where this is located in your keyboard? Anybody that who doesn't know, sorry. Who doesn't know that where we can find this specific?
Under the
It is under the delete, and you have to press, I believe, shift, right, in order to get this. So this pipe is a separator. Okay, so here the first line is always going to be your header. So think about a table, right? Just like a table, this is a header. In the header, you write the name of whatever you want, right? So let's say username in this case, right? Because we're doing this. And then you have password. Now I can create, I can basically go ahead and have my test running as many times as I want with username. So username 1, user, so password pass 1, 2, 3, for example. And I go into the next one. And I can say the same thing, user name 2. And now my password would be pass 564, for example, right? And this could be expected result, because again, expected result will be different for each outcome, right? Each of them. So if this was a valid username and this was invalid, then it will not be the same. So it's probably, let's say, show homepage, for example, error message, for example, right? So now you have a scenario outline where you will enter your user and you will enter your password, and then I should see, after entering this, I should see that what you should see the expected result. Oops. Result. Okay, so this is how your table is going to look like, right, when you create this test. So let me just go ahead and, I guess, to make sense, I'm just going to create some definition for now, and then we will fill them later. 1 second. So one's good. All right, so now that we have this, if I go back, my step definition probably not, okay, then should see something, and then you got the string, which is great. And then this is where we have the problem, right? Let's see. Yeah, I don't have anything properly loaded. Maybe that's why it's even the system, the Java is not even healthy. So I don't even have JDK in this system, in this new computer. So I'll go ahead and download Amazon something. What? Okay. So I'll go ahead and do that the next time, but let's just go over the test for now. And so you guys understand the difference between the scenario and scenario outline at this point, right? Scenario is like when you have a specific scenario, like you don't have any iteration, meaning you don't have to run the same twice using the same different data source, right? Meaning you could do this, copy and paste, and just simply change this data. Like, for example, this is one test, right? Simply, instead of Northern Boulevard, now you are checking for, let's say, Broadway 14, okay, 13, 89 Broadway as an address. And then you expect to see the same item, right? So this is one way to do it. The same test. So let's say you wanted to try 2 different addresses. So you did this, right? So this test ran twice, which is fine with the 2 different addresses. You're happy. But what is the efficient way that Cucumber is teaching you is that you take the same test, okay, and now you parameterize this by, you can say convert to scenario outline, and now you have a row underneath that you can say I want 3418 Northern Boulevard as well. So let's see. pipe, this pipe, and then we gotta do another pipe right there. Okay, good. So notice the difference here, right? What we just did. So this test is gonna run twice. See, play. This same test is gonna run twice. Anytime you run this test, it will run twice. One with this address, the other one is with this address. The first time it runs with this address, it will make sure that it finds this specific address in the item, the result list in your Google or whatever. And then the second time it does, it will go ahead and search with this address, but then it will expect this. The expectation is different because you are inputting different addresses. So now, just like this, what if you have 50 addresses that you want to validate? You will be just basically continuously putting that whatever address that you need, right? So in this case, you have 4. So scenario outline is useful for what? Let's see, let me ask you guys some questions. So let's see, Roma, can you answer why scenario outline is, okay, what is the difference between scenario and scenario outline?
Can I pass it? I'm sorry. I
Okay,
guess scenario outline is like a brief, I'm just gonna guess, brief description of the situation we will be testing.
Well, each one of them is a test, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because you're doing 4 different kind of data, right? But the test itself didn't change. So it is only efficient if you just pass different information and you feed in different information to this specific test case, right? And that's why scenario outline is useful. The scenario is basically just a single scenario. It doesn't need any additional data. You don't validate additional data. But scenario outline is when you parameterize and you say, okay, wait a minute, this test case, but I have a lot of test data that I want to validate. So, so if you create a test scenario outline for login feature, and you basically use just scenario, then you're not doing efficiently, right? You may be passing on wrong username, wrong passwords, all this combination, you can do it easily because you're able to just put it into the table right here.
Do you have to create the scenario outline and scenario, both of them, or just scenario outline?
No, just the scenario outline. So in this case, what I just did, I eliminated all these 2. I no longer need these 2 because they're the same, right? Because both addresses satisfied at this point and validated. Okay, so the reuse of scenario outline to make your task look more, I would say less copy and paste, because I could just simply just copy this and paste it and just change the address. And now I have another task with a different address, or I can just do this. This is the alternative. Now this is recommended. And the interview question is going to be, oh, tell me what is the scenario outline keyword is. And you want to say, well, scenario outline keyword is for parameterization. I can run many test cases using the same exact code, which is same exact test case. So this test case can have many other scenario, and I can actually iterate through different scenario by passing different value, which is this right here, which is in the table. And scenario outline needs an example table, simply if you want to put it this way. And then you want to say scenario is just a single scenario. It doesn't have multiple data set to validate. All right, so then we have background, right? So how many people know what background keyword is? We did this last class, guys. Okay, now I want to ask you guys test ng and JUnit questions. Since you guys don't remember the background. Okay, test ng, what are the some of the annotation that you guys remember from test ng?
Before test, after test, before suit, after
Before
suit.
method, after method.
Okay, and then in test ng, where do we get the HTML result?
Mhm.
Anybody
You mean the
remembers?
HTML
There
report?
is,
HTML
Yeah,
report.
HTML report. Yeah.
You go to, I believe, the library, I believe, or the setting. I forgot what it was called. It's
a separate file folder. It gets
Right.
created after you run it.
It's a test output.
Test output. Perfect. Okay. Yep. That is the test output. All right. Some of you guys remember, that's good. So here's the thing, it's already 10. The next class, I owe you guys this framework. I'll try to figure out why is it only, obviously it's probably not only my computer, it might be also related to IntelliJ setting. Something changed, obviously, because we are able to, the last class we were able to run it on my older machine. So I'll figure that out. And then in the meantime, the next 10 minutes, let's talk about some interview stuff. And then we'll end the day for today. Next class would be learning about Cucumber. Okay, so if you go to Cucumber, right here, let's see, BDD, actually, you have to write BDD. So Cucumber BDD, and there is a 10 minutes tutorial that the Cucumber itself, the company, provides. And these guys basically responsible for building out, or at least taking the Cucumber to the next level to make it better and better and better. Cucumber works with Java, Cucumber works with JavaScript, Cucumber works with C#, and many other programming languages. So as you can see right here, let's see, Cucumber works with Java, JS, Ruby, and then it works with what framework? What is this? I have no idea what icon is this, but anyway, so these 3 languages are the ones that we should be concerned about more. But I don't know, this is not a C#, it's probably, okay, I'll not even say it. All right, so we'll figure this one out. But anyway, these 3 languages, or at least it supports multiple languages in Cucumber. So Cucumber has, let's see, in here, it basically tells you how the test should run. Like, this is how the result shows up, and it didn't even happen for us today. We go into POM, and then we create, we basically create the whole structure of Cucumber project. And so I would say go through this, but don't bother going through like any other languages. I want you to just focus on Java. Okay, so on Java only. So I think I was clicking on something else, but anyway, so if you click on Java, it gives you everything that you need, and especially IntelliJ IDEA. If you go in here, let's see if it has any other documentation. Okay, so let's see which plugin that we're missing. Actually, this is where it lists everything. Let's see. Cucumber for Java. Okay, let's see if I do get, and this is one of the forum that was mentioning that I'm missing this actually. So if I do this, all right, so it gave me all the JVMs, and I can actually add those, but today's time is short, so I'll try that in the meantime. But for you guys to just come into the official Cucumber website, and then you see this is for creating an empty project right here with Maven, and kind of follow this step and see if you can create it yourself. And this is, I think, why they're using Gradle, I have no idea, but if they use Maven, this would be really good. Okay, there we go. Verify Maven or Cucumber installation. So you got the Maven test, and then it should be running just like this. Okay. Now that we have the scenario, blah, blah. Okay, so I would say follow through this and see if you can see. This is where we got stuck with our stuff. This is exactly where we got stuck. And then the next thing they did is basically created those steps, and it's done right at the end, right there. So I would say try to follow this on your own if you can go, if you can make some progress. If not, then I would say follow a YouTube video, make some progress. In the meantime, I'll find out the issue that we are facing with Cucumber, and then I hopefully bring some explanation why this is happening and get a possible fix. And then we move forward with Cucumber in the next class. But for now, I would say just go through this official Cucumber website and try to create the project if you can. If not, then at least read and understand how this whole Cucumber project works. Okay. And that's pretty much it, guys. And if you guys have any question, maybe like we'll do Q&A for the next 10 minutes before we end the day.
I'm sorry,
Any
this
questions?
is from just the link for that. Do you mind sending that in the thing?
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
chat?
yeah, sure. Yeah, there we go. So this is Cucumber official website. So many times you'll find yourself working with a tool at work, which may not be something that you already know or something new. And then when you want to get started, you may want to actually start with the official document. So if you go to installation in this case, and you click on, let's say we have many selection here, JS, Cucumber JVM, so which is for Java. I just want to see if they have a Maven related. Okay, so we are gonna be categorized on the Java side. So I'm gonna click on Java. Okay, and now it's giving us the dependencies for POM XML, right? So we got this, we got that. And then it's asking us to, if you're using Gradle, then we need this, but we're not using Gradle. So it says if you're using, okay, no, but you guys can try using Gradle if you want. Once that is done, and that's it done. So it's only telling us to get Cucumber Java and Cucumber Java 8. So we may have to get this as well, which we missed. Okay, so this is the two dependencies it's telling us to get, but I still have to set up my new computer. So I'll do that. And then on the next class, whatever is my finding, I'll give you guys a good explanation. All right, any questions?
So I had a quick question, not for this, for the list web element. So you did it for JetBlue, and how I was confused about how you did it for the loop, for loop.
Okay, so
Can we go over?
Sure. 1 second. Let's see if this is even working. So let me just write the code somewhere, but this, I need to reconfigure everything. As you can see, it's not even understanding the Java code. So when you use, I'm just going to use this as a space to write. Okay, so don't worry about this stuff. So when you say web element, right, web element, first of all, what we did is we targeted the link tags, right? So we go to inspect, and you want to see if the link, so this might be a link. Okay, this is not a link. Let me find a link. Oh, this is a link. So I click on this guy, and I know that this link starts with a tag, and this was not, right? So we gotta find a link that it does. So we have to first determine what is a link, right? So in this case, anything that starts with A, for example, this one is a link, okay? So this guy, we know that a tag starts with a link. A tag is a link, and then it has href. Okay, if it doesn't even have href, we can at least click on the link. Okay, so now in a web page, how many a tag do you think it has? Right, it has a lot, right? So we cannot simply use something like this. Okay, let's say browser.find. Find element is not even an option, right? Find element is for just a single element, right? So now if I say find elements with the S, it says list. Okay, so at this point, what we are doing is that we're creating a list of items by grabbing all the, so basically you're saying that dot, let's say tag name. So now you're saying I want everything, right? I want everything that starts with this tag. Okay, not a single quote, sorry. Should double quote. Okay, so you're basically saying that you want everything that has a tag. Now, if you say that, you have to create a list, right? So in Java, you can basically create the list, but then you have to make sure the type of the list is web element, right? So it's web element, and you have to create the list of the web element. So let's say we created that, and then we have to give it a name. So we can say all links, and this is what I think Mashriga's named it.
I
Right?
think the web element, it's inside the bracket and the list should be outside.
Yeah, I'm just writing the pseudocode. Okay, let's see, web element, and then this is the list, right? Okay, so now you have this, right, for example, right? And we still, okay, that's fine. But so now that you created the list, right? We know that this one has, this basically has just more than one item, right? So in this case, we know that what it does have is web element. The type of item that it has is web element. So can't we use a for each loop? So how does for each loop works, guys? You guys did this in Java. So first one is the first one is basically condition, right? For each loop. And then, so in here we do condition, and then we execute some specific code related to that condition. Okay, so if the condition, it becomes, so, okay, I'm saying like for, okay, the first one is basically, we assign each item a variable, right? Temporary variable, for example. So the first one, actually, this is not condition. I was talking about the for loop. So the first one, we can say what type this is, right? So we can say web element. And then variable could be, like you gotta give it a name. So it could be link, for example. And then you wanna say this guy. And my code is not gonna work, obviously, because of this red and things like that. But so now in this case, the link is every time it iterates through the item inside of this list, is going to be assigning the name link. So I can say link dot click in this case, and it will click one at a time. Okay, it will click one at a time. Or I can say link dot get attribute, right? Attribute meaning now I want to get something that belongs to that specific web element. And in this case, if this specific web element has href, that's what I want to get. Okay, so now I can say href. Okay, so once I get that, I can do something with that. Now I can say even something like this brother.get, and then I can actually put the whole thing inside of it to go and visit that is specific href. But we can actually get this and validate something to say, okay, href should be equal to this and that, right? But simply we can, if we want to validate the links, we can just click on it. Okay, and then we will have to go to a new page. We want to see a new tab or new page opened. If the new page opened, right, we're going to be still under the same context. So we just want to see if that opened, close it, and then move on to the next one. So the logic has to be entered right here in order to do that kind of validation. But for our learning, what we did is that we simply printed. We just said, okay, you know what, this is equal to something. So I can say string, like a link text or something like that. Like a link href, maybe better name. And then we just basically went and printed this information, right? And same thing, yeah, and then basically this just printed the whole entire URL for us, right? That's the only thing that we did. But for each loop, if we go back in your class, let me see W3 to give you guys a better example. W3 Java, okay. Okay, so when you guys went through this, we have while loop, right? which needs a condition. We have for loop, which needs 3 different kind of section here. So the first one, statement 1, is a starter. Statement 2 is basically the breakpoint, and then statement 3 is where we keep counting how many times we went through this iteration, right? The loop. So that this is where we want to make sure that we're counting the numbers, so that way we can track it. So that's
Yeah,
why
I
we
got
have
confused with the int I, like you see the formula. So I
Yeah,
thought like we have to use something like this. That's why.
no. So for each is, yeah, for each is different. So again, okay, so let's look at it, because the for loop, it looks very similar to the for each loop that we just saw it, I think, like right here, this one. So for loop requires the entry point, and you'll see this semicolon. If it's not there, then it must be for each loop, right? The for each loop is, it needs a type, so web element maybe, and then the name, you can name whatever you want, and then you have the list, right? So what you are saying is that every time this loop is going to go, so think about the logic behind this loop, right? You're saying that the item within this array, whatever many items in there, you want to only iterate that much. That's it. So do you need a entry point, and do you need an end point? You don't need that. You don't need to even count how many times you already went, because you're just going 1 for each item within this bucket. Okay. And then what you're doing is that, since you're going 1 for each item, you need a name for them, a temporary name, so you can address them with that specific name. So that's why you create a temporary name. But in Java, you need to provide the data type anytime you create a variable, and that's when you have the type right here. You have to say either whether that is a string, whether that is a web element, or any other kind of data types that you have to mention. Okay, so that's how, pretty much, as you can see, this is, we have string. So when I say array, this is how the array looks like. It has multiple items, in this case 1, 2, 3, 4 items, and they're the same kind, because this is a string, this is a string, and so is this and that. After that, you're saying, okay, everything in here is a string, and I gave it a, I'm giving myself, okay, let me just run it here, so maybe it's a little bit better. So I'm giving myself a name, temporary name is I. So can I just change this? I can say whatever, right? Okay, I can just say whatever. And now if I run it, it will do the same work. It's because this is the same exact variable, right? I'm just naming whatever I want. The car is the actual array. Okay, this is the actual array. So now you're saying for each means 1 item at a time, and it will start from index 0. So that's why you see vulva first. Okay, that's how for each loop works. You can even like assign something if you want. You can say for each one, you can add maybe like class. Okay, let's see. Right, test. Go ahead and run that, and let's see. It takes a little bit of time, but again, you see now each one of them, it added, right? And it did it for each one of them. That's how actually this for loop, for each loop works, right? And now if you have to do the same thing with for loop, is basically you replace this int I is equal to 0, because you're saying, okay, you know what, initial value for I is 0. Okay, then you want to say that cars dot length. So as long as I is less than cars dot length, I want to keep going, right? And then you want to saying I plus plus. So now it increments I by 1 every time it runs. You have to keep count your I. You have to say, you basically, no, okay, it's right there. Okay, sorry. So basically it will increment automatically, and then as soon as it hits that length, it will stop and break, right? So again, this is what it determines the breakpoint, and this is where it determines the entry, and this is where it increments one every single iteration. So hopefully this helped.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. We got the array. So guys, if you feel a little bit rusty with your Java, remember, if you go to, and this is a good source for you to even use it at work, right? And many of us actually use this website whenever we want to remind ourselves some of the syntax. It is not surprising if you have to go back and kind of like say, okay, well, how do I do this specific thing? We don't memorize anything, right? As long as you understand the concept and can use it from here, you should be fine, even at work. So I would say at least you want to conquer the Java from starting from here to all the way here. You want to conquer yourself. This is something that absolutely fundamental. If you feel rusty about these topics right here, this should be like half an hour for you. Like if you just go through one at a time, read it, and then just follow through. Not the setup, but syntax. You can probably start from syntax. It'll be super easy for you to go through this. And then obviously at some point you want to go more and more deeper. But again, this will help you to understand better into the next classes, guys. So try to go back and kind of understand these. The loop, specifically loop, is the hardest one, right? So the more you practice with the loop, it'll be easier for you for writing this automated test.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I know it's getting a little late, but
Yeah.
I did exactly the way it needed to be done for the links.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, I'm still receiving an error, and I'm not too sure as to what. So I was gonna ask, does it have to be now? Can I screenshot it and send it in the chat, and maybe later you can check on it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can send it. Usually that's what we recommend. So that way, if not me, somebody else. I mean, you'll see that somebody else in the class who probably face the same issue will be able to help. But if you post it, at least Shantabai will be jumping in, or I will be jumping in to give you the answer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, it's getting late. I will see you guys next class Saturday. Just yeah, I guess that Saturday I'll make it more interesting. Let's see. Yeah, I just got my new laptop, so it is pretty even for me, is like kind of not sure if it's my computer is the issue or if this is the issue with my IDE. But once we get that figured out, we'll be on our way to learn more about Cucumber, and hopefully we're going to be pushing in GitHub. So let me show you guys. This is where I want people to push code. So I'll give you guys access to this specific repository at some point, and then you'll create request. So whenever you want to push your code, you'll request to basically add your code. So for example, this person is asking that, hey, can I add my code? And they gave me this pull request. Now I can see what they change, right? So I'm going to say, okay, this is before, this is after, and this is before. Okay, so they added this, and then they added this. So they did some work, and now I can review. So as a manager, as a lead, we do the review, and then we provide some recommendation. After that, what we do is that we go ahead and click on merge right here. Okay, I'm not even logged in, but there will be a button right here to say, okay, this code is approved, and I would be able to push it to the branch, to the main branch, right? So this one has master branch. So whenever you push your code, you put it into a different branch, and then when it's ready, I will push it to the master branch as a manager or as a lead. So I have to show you guys this workflow in GitHub, but let's see next time, once we have everything up and running, we can start to push our code. With that said, guys, have a good night, and I'll see you guys on Saturday.
Good night.
You too.
Have a
Good
great
night.
night.